Here we are live. Sarah Frier, no filter, no filter. You're always no filter in your Twitter feed. Is only no filter, no filter, and great reviews, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad that the book is resonating with people. I think we're spending more time on Instagram now than ever.
Yeah.
And it's important for people to know the story behind the product.
What do you think about this crazy live Instagram? Every 2 seconds in Italy, for instance, but also in UK, every 2 seconds there is someone streaming
Someone's going live.
Yeah, crazy.
It's so interesting because going live used to be the most annoying thing you could do on social media. I realize we're doing it now, but it used to be like, why are you interrupting me? I'm out with my friends. I'm out. Why do you think I have time to go look at your live video? Right now, we're all home. We're all hungry for something interesting to do, and yes, we're turning to live video. We're obsessed with live. Instagram Live is up about 70%. And we are pulling ourselves there because that's our way to connect with people. And when things are live, we feel closer to the people who are talking. We feel like we're in the same moment as they are, experiencing it at the same time. And so it's almost more intimate than a regular video.
Yeah. And also I was checking now my feed, and I saw the news that Instagram now allows users to fundraise for no profits while live streaming. So they basically, in this moment, they are introducing features. I saw Messenger, Facebook Rooms. I haven't tried yet, but they're trying to go after Zoom. I don't know. Is a moment, I think, very interesting to develop new features that maybe we're left behind.
The way people are using these products is really changing, because we used to use our Instagram to kind of curate a version of ourselves that we wanted other people to know. Like we would go to restaurants that we wanted to photograph our food at. We would go travel and for the purpose. I mean, you in Italy have seen so many tourists who seem to be there just to take pictures. And I think that the difference now is we don't really have something to brag about. We're all home. And we're just hungry for human connection. And so live video is up, but so is direct messaging. We're messaging each other a lot more, and we're doing video calling even on Facebook. Even before they announced the Rooms product, we've been doing a lot more video calling because it just feels more natural in this moment to want to see people's faces.
Definitely. By the way, in the chat immediately, I got a lot of questions popping up immediately. Danielito is asking, no, I mean, he's correctly noticing that I think that people need an education about social media. My feeling, I don't know what you think about that, Sarah, is that sometimes you see these people that probably never used Zoom in their life, or they never did a live stream in their life. And now during this quarantine, they start to do live streaming. And they are like kids when they go inside a candy shop and they start to trying everything, the filters and everything.
Yes,
so they abuse the platform, and then they will understand. They will understand that you can also moderate.
We're gonna build new cultures around it. I mean, my very first Zoom interview I did with someone, it was with Casey Newton at The Verge.
Yeah.
We got Zoom bombed.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, exactly.
And what happened?
Well, there was pornography that was playing as we were talking, and
oh my goodness.
And it was so sad because he had invited his parents to come watch the video because he was trying to do these work from home happy hours to make people feel like we're all in this together, and it was terrible. But now school districts, governments are also have had that experience. So now you learn that you have to put a password up. You learn that you don't share it publicly on Twitter before it starts. The best practices are evolving, and now people are doing Zoom webinars instead of open Zoom meetings. So I think that over time we try things, we do our best with the current situation we're in, and then we move to a new culture.
Definitely. By the way, I saw this latest Zoom trend, Zoom silent or something like that, where you basically hack into a Zoom room and then you silent everyone. So this is a new evolution, of the Zoom craziness.
The pranks. Oh my gosh.
Crazy. I was talking yesterday with Alex Kantrowitz, and I was noticing that it's incredible how Zoom, which was a product used by us tech people or business people in very boring PowerPoint meetings, and now is used by everyone. So it's incredible how a platform can completely change its skin in just 1 month and go from 10 million to 300 million active users daily. Zoom, I think, is a crazy, crazy story. Do you think that Facebook will catch up with these Facebook rooms and so on?
I think that the thing about Facebook is a lot of people who don't know what Zoom is and don't know how to download it, they will just use the Facebook one because they already have a Facebook account. It's easier for them. And I think we underestimate how much easier that makes it for Facebook to be dominant in any product right away. But I think that already we've had a couple months to develop this culture of using Zoom. And if we are spending all day on our Facebook, is that where we want to hang out at night too? I'm not sure if that's really the behavior. And I know Facebook is trying to go at it from a consumer perspective, but I've already had very consumer centric activity happening on my Zoom. I've had trivia nights with friends. I went to a baby shower on Zoom. I saw a proposal on Zoom, a marriage proposal. So it's already become part of our free time and something that we're comfortable using with just with friends. And I think that it's going to be easy for Facebook to get to the people who haven't gotten there yet, but quite a few of us already are very comfortable.
Got it. Sarah, you cover a lot of tech world, mostly for Bloomberg, right?
Bloomberg and Business Week.
And Bloomberg and Business Week. And every day there are news about tech companies reacting to this COVID situation. By the way, I was reading, just while I was waiting for you, this news about Airbnb that kind of shocked me, because said Airbnb will require 24 hours between rentals to limit the spread of COVID-19, which means basically that if you have a flat and you Airbnb the flat, your earning will be half. Basically, is with one decision will be half. But it's one example, and you see everyday news about I don't know, Google hitting the brake on hiring or any kind of news. What's your general photography of the tech sector? Because from outside, sometimes you think they are really profiting from the crisis. But other sectors, then you see news, I don't know, about Deliveroo, that here in UK, they say, maybe is going under. So I don't know. What's your general picture and your feedback from inside?
So I think that the tech sector is going to be able to survive this period more than a lot of other kinds of businesses because it has become our infrastructure. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all these things seem actually necessary now. Uber Eats, Deliveroo, all these food sharing platforms, they seem necessary now to get meals. And so I think that we are becoming more dependent on these companies, but that does not mean that they're making more money.
Right.
And I think we're going to start to see this divergence between product popularity and product revenue, financial success. But if there's anything that we've learned from the rise, especially the rise of Facebook and the rise of Google, it's that eventually over time, the habit is the most important thing. The ads and the monetization can come later. So if people can use this moment to create habits, new habits on their products, then eventually the money will come. But you're right, the world is never going to return to what it was 5 months ago. I wrote a lot in my book about the experience economy, like the way that we have changed how we live and what we decide to do because of Instagram. And you're not going to see people go to as many restaurants or go on as many vacations or go to as many music festivals mean, think of all the things that became super popular in part because people wanted to photograph them for Instagram. And I just don't know that. I think we're going to have to develop new habits. Like people are going to become, everyone's going to become a fitness instructor, a cooking influencer. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen next, but I think that it's impossible to predict who's going to necessarily live or die.
By the way, about revenues, you are absolutely right. I read that Google probably will report a drop by 20% in Q2. So yeah, I mean, a lot of users, lot of consumption, but then the revenues, I don't know if they afford that kind of service. I mean, another option is like Netflix. I think they got double subscribers in the last quarter. But again,
Snapchat's doing really well too.
yeah, I mean, so you have companies that are obviously performing very well. Zoom, I was asking Alex if he knew the Zoom revenues in this moment, because again, how many people use the free Zoom? How many people use the pay Zoom? I don't know about that. Anyway, it will be very interesting to see real revenues
Yeah.
and consumption popularity. What about Instagram that you know very, very well? In this scenario, Instagram, of course, is one of the top players, not only for the live stream, but everyone there. How do you think Instagram is moving in this moment?
Well, according to eMarketer, the increase on Instagram is higher than any other social platform, that we are really
Right.
moving the time we spend to Instagram. And I think that the problem for the business side is that Facebook hasn't figured out how to make money off of the parts of the product that people are using more. They don't
Yeah.
really have a plan for live video money. They don't have a good plan for IGTV or ads and messaging, for example. And the influencer economy is not making it. So even not just the people who make money off of Instagram ads, but the people who make money personally through their Instagram accounts are having trouble getting the deals they used to get and being paid the same rate as they used to be paid. And so I think we're going to see a lot of new invention of how to make money on Instagram.
Right.
We'll see probably a lot more merchandising. This was supposed to be the year of Instagram shopping. This was
Yeah.
going to be the year that like all the brands on Instagram started selling us stuff directly. And I think that's still happening, but it's not going to take the world by storm the way it might have, because we don't really need as much stuff right now.
Yeah.
We're
Absolutely.
not going out. We're not going to parties. We're not. Maybe we're redecorating our apartments, but people are getting laid off. Yeah, it's not really a great time for retail.
Absolutely. I was interviewing before a founder of a startup selling Italian made in Italy shoes, high price, very good. Like as Donald Trump would say, tremendous, tremendous startup. And this tremendous startup, that the founder rightly said that, if you are at home in quarantine, you don't buy new shoes. I mean, you buy new slippers, but you don't buy new shoes, new elegant shoes. Why should you? You can't go out. So definitely there will be less consumption of different things maybe. Well, one thing, Sarah, going back to Instagram, I think is a very fascinating story how this company became this gigantic, crazy tech player. And I saw the other day Kevin Systrom, one of the founder of Instagram, saying that he was working on a website to trace the COVID spreading. I don't know if you saw it, like live RT
Yes,
or something
it's
like that.
called RT.live. And
RT.live.
what it basically does is it tells you the effective reproduction rate of the virus in a particular state in the US, and hopefully they'll expand internationally at some point. But the reproduction rate, it's the rate at which, if one person gets the virus, how many people are they likely to infect? So if the number is below one, then it's good. And if it's above one, then it's dangerous. And they've mapped out the whole country in red or green, depending on how good or bad it is
Yeah.
there. And what it's supposed to do is help us understand when we reopen the economy, whether we are increasing the risk more than we should, whether it's getting dangerous to be in a certain place. And that's just based on the most recent data. It's not perfect, but I think it speaks to the Instagram founders. I mean, Kevin
Exactly.
Systrom he's not an epidemiologist. He's not
Right.
even a statistician, but he likes to boil things down to their simplest. Remember, the first Instagram app was just a photo.
Yeah.
It was no bells and whistles. Instagram never had like Instagram events, Instagram groups, Instagram this and that Facebook does. It was always just, they tried to keep it as simple as possible, and they didn't want to add anything to it that would take away from that ease of use. And I think that he's trying the same thing with virus tracking. He's thinking, how can I boil this down so that anybody anywhere can look at it and know what it's for and what to do with information?
But I think it's a good example of how smart Kevin Systrom is. I mean, I read this paper. I don't understand much, but I saw, math formulas, like, I thought, wow, this is pretty interesting, from, you're not expecting that from the founder of Instagram. I don't think general population think, the founder of Instagram will be like,
the one to help us with the virus.
Yeah, I mean,
and his co-founder Mike Krieger is helping build it as well on the engineering side.
right.
I think that Kevin Systrom is just the ultimate self-improver. He, throughout his time, even before he was using Instagram, he would get into photography. He would try to understand the stitching of Italian leather. He loved
really?
art history. Yes, he loved winemaking. He really got the idea. He didn't know it at the time, but he studied abroad in Florence, and he was taking a photography class. He brought a fancy camera there, and the photography professor in Florence said, "Don't use that. Use this little tiny plastic leaky camera and see if you can just do it for the art. Do it for the image composition." And so he learned that it actually wasn't important for something to be the most complicated or the most technical. It was just important for it to achieve the right purpose that you're trying to achieve, solve the right problem you're trying to solve. And so as he got into these interests, he became something of a Renaissance man. He got really into cycling at times, really into running. Now I think he's really into statistics and really into solving the spread of this virus, or understanding it better at least.
Is it
And
true that
that's
Kevin?
how he's always
Sorry.
been.
Yeah. He always tried to improve himself. That's at least what it looks like from outside. Is it true that he was not even able to code? That he taught himself coding in a very short period of time?
Well, he did take a coding class at Stanford, but he didn't get a very good grade.
Right.
He did teach himself. First, he had help from Jack Dorsey, the current CEO of
All right.
Twitter. When Kevin was an intern at Odeo, the company that later made Twitter, Jack was starting as an engineer, and they became friends, and Jack helped him out. And then he went to Google and product marketing and on the deals side. And then he joined a startup, and at the startup called Next Stop, that's where he really learned to code. And he realized also that he'd met all of the great entrepreneurs of the time. He'd met Jack Dorsey, who had by then started Twitter. He'd met Mark Zuckerberg, who had tried to convince him to join the Facebook.com, as it was called at the time.
Yeah.
And Kevin had said no. And he realized anyone can make a company. Anyone can do something as long as they're doing something that people want to use. And so then he started to code Bourbon, which later turned into Instagram.
How did they handle in the beginning? And I imagine you explored and tried to explain it in your book. How did they handle the fast growing of Instagram until they got acquired by Facebook? Because I remember, I mean, the tech side, that was not easy. Also was a different age. It's not like now that Zoom can go from 10 million to 300 million users. And almost you didn't even notice it. Yes, of course, the security problems, but the platform didn't start to crash every 3 seconds, like you remember with the whale, Twitter's whale. And so it was a different period. What did they do to handle the tech growth of the company?
They were one of the first apps to really grow on Amazon Cloud.
All right.
And they got advice from Adam D'Angelo, who was the first chief technology officer of Facebook. But it wasn't easy and it wasn't perfect. In fact, every time after Justin Bieber joined
Right.
Instagram,
Yeah.
good guy,
So Justin Bieber was a problem, basically.
he was a problem and an opportunity because
Yeah.
he really got the celebrity side of Instagram going. The first celebrity was Snoop Dogg, and then Justin Bieber
Right.
brought all the tweens on, the tween girls.
Got it. Got it. So, and what did they do at the end? Because they, I think when they were acquired, they were like 13. That's what the legend says, or something like that. Possible?
Yeah, they had only about 13 employees when they got acquired, and it was actually very difficult for them that summer as they were waiting to see if regulators would approve the deal, but suddenly they were growing faster than ever. They had some major server breakdowns. When they joined Facebook, they were able to leverage Facebook's infrastructure, and that was one of the biggest things that Facebook was able to give them. One of the biggest reasons they sold, beyond the fact that Mark Zuckerberg allowed Instagram to operate independently. I think that's the top reason. But the secondary reason is that they were running out of steam. They were working at all hours of the night.
Right.
Mike Krieger was fixing the servers at parks, at dinner, at birthday parties. He always had his laptop with him. One of the engineers told me a story of how he was dating this girl and completely forgot to message her for an entire month because he kept having to restart the Instagram servers and deal with them. And when he got around to saying, "Hey, sorry, I've been really busy," she had already like moved on and without even breaking up. It was that crazy.
But at the end, were they really independent? So my two curiosity are the deal was like impossible to say no. I guess if you are 13 people, startups, basically with zero revenues, I can suppose, and Mark Zuckerberg call you and say, "Look, here is, I don't know how much was it, but a lot of money,
$1 billion,
$1 billion," and
which nobody had ever paid that for a mobile app before.
Yeah,
the first
yeah,
mobile
you're right.
app to get that.
You're right, because it was a mobile app, and so what was the name of the other app that launched? Color? Do you remember Color that launched and failed?
Yes.
But raised a lot of money, and people say, "Oh, there is a new app," but then so it was not. You're right. A moment where a simply mobile app could be like a company. So 1 billion, and the independence was real. I mean, or was just Mark Zuckerberg's words, and then was not really like that.
It was Mark Zuckerberg's promise. And
Right.
for a while, it worked out okay. But there were some signs in the very beginning of Instagram joining Facebook that it wasn't going to be that way forever. The first thing that the growth team did when Instagram joined was they told Instagram they would have to do a study to figure out if the reason that people were posting fewer photos on Facebook was because of Instagram. And they said, if we find out that you are hurting Facebook's growth, I'm sorry, but we can't help you. So even though they'd spent $1 billion and made this huge bet, they were willing to let Instagram languish at the end of 2012 when they finally got into the company. And that was just foreshadowing for what was to come, which was eventually, once they had built out their business and really succeeded using a completely different growth strategy than Facebook, they were flying too close to the sun. And Mark Zuckerberg was concerned that Instagram would cannibalize Facebook's Facebook's user growth potential. Yeah. That if people were going to Instagram, they were going as an alternative to Facebook. And therefore, that was bad for business. So he cut off the links to Instagram. He cut off their free advertising promotion on Facebook. He made it so when you cross post a photo on Instagram to Facebook, that it would no longer tell you that it was originally posted to Instagram. So they did a lot of things to try to protect the Facebook growth machine and make sure that Instagram, after all of those years of receiving resources from Facebook, was willing to give back.
Right. And do you think there was a moment when Kevin Systrom and other Instagram founders, they were really happy to be into Facebook, apart from the $1 billion? Or when they sold, they thought, okay, this is over? Because Facebook had a different DNA. I mean, let's be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
Instagram was, I don't know, elegant and poetic in beginning. Not now,
Facebook
but
was all about growth and all about sort of database growth. They were always trying to hack our attention and figure out what we were doing on Facebook that would cause us to engage more, click through more, scroll more, comment on more things. They were measuring every aspect of our behavior and trying to figure out what to do to increase those metrics. Whereas Instagram had a very different strategy. They had actually an editorial curation strategy where they would promote certain accounts they thought were doing a good job so that people would see something interesting on the site and they would come to Instagram because there was good stuff there. There was something you could immerse yourself in, a new interest or a new celebrity or a new artist that you could discover through Instagram. And so they really had this behind the scenes relationship building with celebrities, with people who they would make famous directly. And Facebook thought that was just stupid. Like, why would you do something for one user that you could
right.
do for tens of millions or hundreds of millions? But Facebook let them do it, and I think that was maybe a happy time for Instagram, that they felt like they were getting to grow their way of growing without Facebook digging in, being able to resist the parts of Facebook that they didn't like, the frequent notifications, the spammier growth tactics. Facebook was letting them say no to those things. The thing is, I think if you look at what happened later, even in the times when Facebook was restricting Instagram's growth, the founders still had a pretty good life there. It was frustrating working for Mark Zuckerberg and dealing with the fact that he wanted to cut off resources to Instagram. But while Mark Zuckerberg was spending 10 hours testifying in front of US
Right.
Congress, that was around the same time that Kevin Systrom was getting his sommelier license
Yeah.
and going to the Met Gala with the Kardashians.
Yeah.
He didn't have to go on the stand and answer for any of the problems of Instagram. He just, got to do his thing.
Yeah. So when do you think the relationship between Systrom and everyone in the Instagram gang started to fall apart, and they said, all right, that's it, enough?
It started in 2018 when they were trying to get headcount. They already had this cannibalization study going on whether Instagram was cutting into Facebook's future success. And the founders thought that was kind of unfair because they thought, well, we did Instagram stories, that was majorly successful. We've built up our revenue to the point where we're going to contribute a very important portion of Facebook's revenue, and we should be rewarded for that, not punished and restricted.
Yeah.
But it didn't get bad until they were trying to hire in 2018, and Zuckerberg wouldn't let them hire as many people they thought that they needed to build out IGTV, to build out some of their other opportunities like e-commerce. And the verdict came back from Zuckerberg saying that they would get about something like 93 employees. Meanwhile, Oculus was getting hundreds of employees.
Right.
And they were wondering, like, are we just being set up to fail here? And then they learned that Zuckerberg had this plan to integrate all the apps and make them all work together, that eventually the Instagram messaging team, the Instagram direct team, would report up to Facebook Messenger, and that they would have to tie all of these products together. And it just felt less like they were building a company within a company and more like they were just a department of Facebook, which of course they were.
Yeah. And do you think they will launch something else, something similar in the future? These guys, these Instagram people, apart from this COVID experiment, do you think that by researching for your book, this Instagram gang will meet up together and try to do something new in the future, or not?
Yes, I mean, I think that Kevin and Mike Krieger will probably work together. They have a tremendous working relationship. They complement each other's skills very well. Kevin is more of the outside facing, personable, like head of the company and the product visionary, and Mike is the engineering side, making sure that everything's working, debating with Kevin on vision, and they were always very aligned during the entire Facebook story, which is not common. I don't think this COVID tracking is going to be their next company. I think they're going to build something else, but I couldn't tell you what it might be because their interests are so varied. The fact that they really love art, they really love food, they really love all, they really get into everything, which is why Instagram was so perfect for them, because it allows all of us to dive in obsessively into our interests, whether it's nail art or skateboarding or sourdough bread baking. We can find it on Instagram and get good at it by looking at what other people do. So I do think that they'll build something again. I'm just not sure what it is. And they both have kids now, and they're trying to figure out what their priorities are.
Definitely. Maybe they will do something for a platform for kids, and little.
Maybe, you never know.
I don't know. How about all the new platforms that are popping up every 2 seconds? Do you see anyone able to compete at the moment with Instagram, Facebook? Obviously, there is TikTok now growing fast from ByteDance. In Italy, I saw an explosion of House Party, which was previously Meerkat.
Seemed on the brink of death, but now.
Yeah. Do you remember when?
Well.
What was his name? Rubin? No, the guy who founded Meerkat, and then they.
Oh yeah.
They were pivoting, right, to House Party. Is there any platform that you see that potentially could compete with these big platforms at the moment?
It's really hard to compete with the network because you have to get people to develop a new habit. You already have so many different habits, but the way that TikTok has been able to do it is by advertising very profusely on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat, and they certainly have made inroads. I think it's hard for people to know about these things, and it's also hard for them to share links to those on. We've seen in the past that Facebook has stopped link sharing to Snapchat, or they would stop people from using their profile pictures as snap codes. And I think that it's really tough to compete with the giants. But I do think that the more Instagram becomes like Facebook, the more fatigued people might get with it. It'll become more commercialized. It'll have more of a recommendation algorithm, and we'll see if people still like to use it. It's obviously become extremely crucial for us right now. But Snapchat caught an edge with Instagram because they understood that there was too much pressure on Instagram, that people wanted a place where they could be raw and real and not have to put on this curated, performative part of their lives. So I do think that there's always a place that we're not looking, that someone could come up and become really big. I think Snapchat's a great example, and Twitter's a great example of, sorry, not Twitter, TikTok is a great example of that being possible. I just don't see anyone right now. And if you disagree with me, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, no, I at the moment I just see big growth for TikTok, but this COVID situation, at least in Italy, brought back Facebook. The numbers of Facebook went up again, and before pre-COVID, my feeling was, all right, Facebook is gone, just old people on it and everyone moved. And now I see everyone back. I don't know if they will stay after the COVID. So this is a big question. I don't know. You mentioned Twitter. I was curious about your opinion about Jack Dorsey. He decided to donate 1 billion of his personal money for this COVID situation. I mean, these people like Kevin Systrom, Zuckerberg, they not really like a normal, human being. They don't see the world in the same way. I don't know. I mean, 1 billion is a lot of money, even for Jack Dorsey.
For Jack, it makes it means a lot more than it does for others, because Jack, he's not as rich as those other guys. 1 billion is more than a quarter of his wealth.
Wow. Wow.
So for him to make that commitment, it's really big. I guess we'll just see what happens with it, because in the past he hasn't been super transparent about his donations. He says he's trying to be more transparent this time, but we'll see how, over what time frame that is. Certainly it's good. We need people to step up and help other people right now.
Definitely. Sarah, 5 more minutes and then I let you go. Tell me about the media industry. All the publishers are hit by the situation. We've been talking about the advertising model. What's the situation at Bloomberg, at Business Week? What is the chat behind the scenes? What are you discussing? What is the scenario that you think is probably coming in front of us in the next few months?
Well, Bloomberg has a different revenue model than most, because our main business is financial services, the information for the terminal, Bloomberg Terminal, if you don't know about that already. It's like a data machine that investors can use. So we have a bit of a different situation, but I think that the media industry in general, you're seeing the same trends that you do with these tech companies, where the services are more necessary and popular than ever, because people need this information. They need to know what's happening in their communities. They need to understand the risk to their families, and also the ways that the government's going to open back up again, when they're going to be able to go out to the park or to the grocery store. But that doesn't translate necessarily to higher revenues. So it's really hard. We've seen a lot of layoffs happen at very good publications or places that were very promising, but we've also seen hiring. I mean, there are some media groups that are still hiring. I think that right now is an important time to subscribe to a media organization if you have the cash on hand, because that's what's going to allow them to sustain themselves through this period, not advertising.
Sarah, tell me how you're living your day in this quarantine period. What's your daily routine? I see in chat they are curious to know. How does it work?
Well, this is my main perch here by this bookshelf to do my virtual events around the world. I have been talking about my book on podcasts, on events like these. I also have been trying to understand the relationship of COVID to how we use social media and how Zuckerberg's leadership has evolved. And so I've been doing my day job, my reporting. Tomorrow we have Facebook earnings. That'll be really interesting. So every day I sort of balance the book talk with the communicating with readers. I talk to a lot of readers on my phone. People are reacting right now to what they've read, and it's my only way to see it, because we're not going to bookstores or book signings, or I'm not seeing people read it in airports or on trains. It's all on the internet. So I really live for that, for people who are reacting and telling you what they think, positive or negative. And then I'm also trying to talk to people about how their lives are changing.
How will you change sorry.
No, just because I think that it's all moving so fast. Like, I wrote this story about travel influencers who were still posting about their amazing trips and not acknowledging that we were in the middle of this global pandemic. But behind the scenes, they were losing their deals, and their parents were worried, and they were worried, and they weren't sure what to do, and they weren't sure what their lives would look like for the next few months. Well, within a few days of me posting that story, suddenly every travel influencer started to acknowledge, okay, this is, I'm going home, and I'm just going to start posting photos from the past. So I think that the world is moving very fast, and so as a journalist, it's important to continue to have the same conversations and conversations with new people who maybe I haven't talked to, small businesses working on Instagram, to try to figure out how to keep things afloat.
How the promotion of your book is changed by this COVID situation. I came up, by the way, with my book in Italy on January. I did promotion until 20 of January, I think, or 25th. And then basically I had to stop. And I completely, I did the launch, a quick launch, and then that's it. End of the book launching in a traditional way. How are you approaching it?
Well, it's been all virtual because my book came out a few weeks after everyone had already been quarantined. And at first I was worried that, I didn't, there's so much going on right now. I didn't necessarily want to be the one interrupting a really important conversation with with what I wanted to say about Instagram. But what I found is that people are very, very much in need of something else to think about.
Yeah.
We're all anxious. We're all concerned about our families or our livelihoods, and having another story to dive into has been, I guess, good for people. So I've still been doing my events virtually, and also trying to think about how this immense power that Facebook and Instagram have over our lives is affecting the way that we interact right now during coronavirus, as we talked about at the beginning of our conversation. The way that the tour has worked is it's been a lot of virtual events like this, a lot of podcasts, but all from home.
Yeah. Final question, Sarah. What is the number one lesson that you would like to share to startups around the world after you have been investigating about Instagram story? I mean, there are a lot of lessons from Instagram story, but is there something specific that you'd say, look, this is really what you need to consider if you have your own startup?
When you're building something, you have to make sure that you're solving a problem for your users. A lot of the tension between Instagram and Facebook was around that question of, are we doing this for the purposes of increasing our metrics, or for the purposes of making this team's feature have a higher prominence, or is there any reason we're doing this beyond helping people use the product in a better way or solving a problem for them? Yeah. And that's why Instagram happened the way it did. They had this app called Bourbon, which had all sorts of different features for it, whether it's location check-ins or telling your friends you were going to go somewhere and they could meet you there. And they just stripped it all down. They stripped it all down to photos, and they said, this is the thing that will solve the problem of camera phone photos being grainy, and just be for that and nothing else.
Got it. Fantastic. Sarah, thank you so much. No Filter, Sarah Frier. Guys, go and try to read this book. It sounds really, really interesting. And support Sarah during this quarantine book launch, which is absolutely, a first. But it's also maybe an interesting opportunity to connect more with your readers. Sarah, thank you so much, and good luck for everything.
Thank you for having me.
And